Good morning. Welcome to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Drive safe, Dave. How's your morning starting so far?
Man, it was a little choppy in the first, but I think
happens.
it's smoothing out. I think it's now that I'm here and my coffee maker's not working. Well, my wife's not here. I don't know how to operate the coffee maker.
You know, I saw you in your office. I went there and I see a double shot Starbucks. And I'm thinking, you know what? You're the last person in America that needs a double shot Starbucks of all things. Come on, dude. I mean, go to the Quick Trip. You got the Flying Squirrel down the road. You can get coffee somewhere.
I know, but we have it in the refrigerator. I couldn't get it said something about descale on the maker, and I couldn't get it to work this morning. I was mad, so I grabbed that. I needed some kind of caffeine.
You have had some problems with that coffee maker. You know, I wondered in my heart, is it Drive Safe Dave or is it the coffee maker? I just feel like you wake up wired up. I just have a feeling you're like, just hitting buttons everywhere. And this machine's like, dude, leave me alone. You know, stop touching me. Probably like Sir Rick, like, dude, stop touching me.
I'm telling you, it had blinking lights on it this morning. It doesn't make sense. You're supposed to just push the button, and it's supposed to come on, and it started blinking back at me. It had water. It had the thing in it. It had everything it's supposed to have in it, and it didn't freaking work. And I was like, this thing's fixing to wind up in the trash.
Tell you, that dude's a stupid stuff. Oh, whoa. The SOB, you know, the unmiked. Did you catch that yesterday? Did you watch it at all?
Yes.
I mean, producer, we got to see this.
Thank you all.
Anything in place with the political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a bitch.
You know what? If I was the president, that would be all sorts of videos like that. Me walking, you freaking kidding me? You stupid. And here it was yesterday, you know. So President Biden's on thing and get a Fox reporter. Of course, it's got to be a Fox reporter, and a stupid SOB calls him out a little bit. And, you know, there are some
I'm not mad at him for that. You know what I mean? I'm really not mad at him. At least he said it under his breath.
Oh, man, there's some funny TikToks out there on that. You know what? You know, TikToks, if you make a mistake in this place, in this country, you know, keep in mind, you don't hide anything anymore. Somebody's going to hear it somewhere. It's going to make it to social media. You know, ask Donald Trump. Oh, yeah. You know, he had a few things out there on social media.
Yeah, absolutely. And he would find his way. He would get out there on purpose too. So
so Drive Safe. Let's just go in that for a second. If that was you, right? If you were a big shot, I know you already. I mean, that's a bad example. You being the one you are. I mean, have you ever dropped anything like that on this thing on BCB?
I have. I said, and it was just last week. I said under my breath. I said a bad word. I didn't mean to, but it slipped out.
It was like back in the day, and I can remember this. This is like that back when you and I were only running it, and we had just microphones. There was no
it was radio.
And sometimes we'd leave it on all day, you know, and it would be just on, and people would walk in, hey, you really got to watch how you're talking. Because they doubled as my office as well. And I remember starting this show like 15 minutes of probably giving you the wrath. And it was, or just talking like, you stupid SOB, you know, thought I was unmiked and went off on that. Dave, we have a couple things we want to jump into. You know, obviously we have Russia and the worries up there in Russia. What's going on up there in Russia?
You know, I even looked at it yesterday. I do know that yesterday they placed troops on a state of alert here in the United States to maybe back and or support the bordering NATO countries to the Ukraine. But that's just, we not actually deploying any troops. We don't want to show any sign of aggression. But however, today in Kiev, they are going to be arriving a lot of armaments that the United States is giving as aid to help to deter Russia from entering the Ukraine. You know, 120,000 troops is a lot of troops over a broad area, and the problem is it's three fronts, north, east, and south. And I don't know exactly what's going on, but there's a lot of posturing. I tell you what, it is a big worry. We've pulled out American non-essential personnel, and they are telling everyone not to travel to Russia at this moment.
Yes, and when we talk about transportation, we bring that in just a little bit to Russia. You know, obviously that the big worry of the spike in fuel, because especially that maritime fuel. they run off that Brent crude, which is expected to, if something happens, to really accelerate.
Absolutely.
And again, we start talking about the price. They even talked about the price of, this is all speculative. If we go back, we put sanctions on Russia, anything like that happens, how the barrel could go back north of 100. They've even said $110 a barrel.
Wow.
Yeah,
I
so
do
craziness.
know that. I do know that yesterday they spoke with the president, spoke with all of the NATO alliances in that region, and what was expected. I guess what they did was what was expected of them and what they can do. I tell you, it is something to continue to watch.
Hey, Dave, today we're going to talk, and we have an interview here in a little bit, for those of you that don't know, with Tyler Cole, a little bit of carbon intelligence, and he's going to get us up to speed with all what that means, because there's not a lot of intelligence in here.
I don't even know what that
But
is.
yesterday, you saw another interview from somebody at Freightways with Mr. Adler, and Drive Safe Dave and Mr. Adler, they had a little heated, it wasn't, I'm just kidding, it wasn't heated, but there was a little conversation relating to the Hindenburg. Drive Safe Dave goes and does some research, and Dave, you're coming back saying you were right, that the fault was 100%?
Yeah, it was the fire, that fiery crash. There was a lightning bolt, and then you have this huge bonfire on the ship caused by the leaking gas, hydrogen.
That's your argument?
I mean, I'm just going to say it was hydrogen that caused it. It wasn't helium.
It wasn't weather.
The weather.
It wasn't
the
weather
spark
that happened.
But I'm telling you, that's not what the danger is. The danger. I mean,
root cause was it? And I think that's what Mr. Adler was talking about. I mean, so they have little things on there. Wasn't there something out there that if it started to leak, you would smell like a garlic smell or something like that? There was no report of garlic smell.
What are you talking
about? I'm talking about the Hindenburg.
Okay.
There was things in place to get that going, and I'm just telling you, I think Mr. Adler is still right.
Had it been helium, which at first was intended, it wouldn't have gone up in a fiery mess, but it had hydrogen in it, and therefore the end result was fiery mess, 36 people killed as it crashed, and it was a horrible, horrible scene if you had been there. Not 86 years ago.
Hey, we got Tyler coming up next. We got a break first. This is BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Welcome back to BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. Hey, Dave, we're joined by Tyler Cole, the Director of Carbon Intelligence at Freightways. Over 15 years of experience in global supply chain management as both a broker and a shipper. His work has spanned all modes of transportation across various sectors such as biofuels, food, beverage, bulk commodities, and CPG. A passion for eliminating waste and emissions for freight. Drive Safe Dave, that's why he went to Freightways. I've known my buddy Tyler for many years, and I knew Tyler first as a broker, and then as this guy that started talking about this carbon intelligence, or this carbon footprint. I'm like, dude, I don't know what any of this stuff means. Tyler, welcome to BCB Live.
Glad to be here, man, with Sir Rick and Driver Dave. You guys are doing awesome work.
Hey, thanks, Jay. Hey, so we're sitting here, and the last thing I looked at was carbon dating. That was about as far as I get. So I'm not even sure what. So can you just tell me what carbon footprint is?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best measurement you have of the emissions that are coming off your operation. It can rely on different data sources, but at the end of the day, everybody's trying to understand the impact of their activities. And these have been around for decades, man. This is not new science that we're uncovering here at Freightways, but what we're trying to do is make it more broadly available to an industry that really needs awareness about their impact today, because in my mind, there's a very big green wave coming, and small to medium enterprises, especially in freight and logistics, need to start understanding just some of the basics here.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because, it wasn't but a couple of years ago, not many of us knew anything about a pandemic, didn't know anything about viruses, but but now we're all somewhat experts, right? I mean, we're all somewhat experts on how to deal with the pandemic, how to deal with viruses and all this other stuff. And I think that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get to an understanding of how to deal with this carbon intelligence.
Totally agree. I hope it doesn't come to the point where we're all locked down trying to figure this thing out. But you're right. It's very important, and it's going to be increasingly important as the business climate change. I'm not a climate alarmist. I didn't come to this position from an environmental point of view. It's really more of a business opportunity point of view for me. And the more that I've dug into the business opportunity, the more I am becoming alarmed about the impact on climate. But that's certainly not why I started down this road. So I think the industry is going to be brought along in the same way. It's going to start coming as you see additional requests from customers looking for more data, as you start to see potential regulations, probably starting in Europe and on the West Coast and slowly making their way to the rest of the world. It's just something people need to be aware of because it's coming.
Now, I was really kind of worried, making sure you wouldn't look down at me still for using my Arid Extra Dry, aerosol cans. Like, I just lost another, and I don't have many friends, and I thought for a second I may have lost you there. So, hey, bear with me as I fall into understand, and I'm being serious. So this part is getting to understand this carbon footprint. And so Tyler, how do you collect this data? I mean, we hear it in here, everything supposedly has some kind of carbon, and what does that mean? How do you collect that carbon data?
It's a lot of data, and it's coming from different places. So you just hug the laptop. So think about everything that goes into that laptop component. We all know how diverse and global and complex supply chain networks are. And we know that that little piece of plastic in front of you that's doing all the work here is made up of thousands of parts from thousands of suppliers all over the world. So to do a very robust and understand the carbon that's actually in and that made up getting that to you takes a lot of data from a lot of people. So you're thinking about things like, what kind of power source did they use at the plant that made the plastic casing? What sort of transport did they use to get the semiconductor from A to B? How many times did it cross the ocean? And each one of those has its own, you might call it default emissions factor or assumptions that go baked into that number. So there's a lot that gets put into it. When we talk about freight, though, we're talking about fuel at the end of the day. Unless you're running a bunch of facilities, right, and there's a big power load from your operation, we're talking about how you're getting stuff from A to B, what kind of equipment you're using, and what you're using to fuel it.
Gotcha. And when you hear it from the shippers, I mean, what are the shippers saying about this carbon footprint? Are they? Do you see anything right now with the shippers, say, going to the carriers and saying, you know what, you've got to step your game up to be able to pull our freight?
Definitely, you're starting to see it. And I remember when I was doing it, working with you guys. Our biggest customers were asking, really, are you Smart Waste certified? Do you understand what it is? Do you have a plan? But it wasn't anything that was impacting their procurement decisions. It wasn't taking that seriously. It's starting to get to that point. So you're seeing the questions get a little more complex. Shippers are starting to ask questions about different fueling technologies, your ability to charge an NEV, your ability to provide dedicated service, or at least your ability to give them actual emissions data, which would mean sharing some form of fuel consumption with them. It's probably a small amount now, and it's starting with the larger multinational shippers, but it's going to cascade down through tiers of suppliers. And we all know that the trucks are running for both of those types of companies. So we shouldn't be surprised when you start to get more requests.
When we see that, we've actually seen a little bit of it. I don't know that we've seen it in the carbon footprint ideology, but there's customers that say absolutely no idling, right? We're not going to allow idling on property. We're not going to allow you to just sit and burn fuel. We're gonna try to minimize those emissions. I think those kinds of things, and I think one of the biggest ones is Walmart. I don't think Walmart allows it anymore on any idling on any property anywhere in the United States. But I think we're going to see more and more of that. Is that what you're basically saying in the ideology? Is this going to be legislative, or is this going to be business going to generate this idea forward?
I think businesses will be nimbler and move faster. Walmart's a great example there, and you start to see all these pledges coming out. There's a new one every week. Those are going to start to have an impact as people in the shipping community or the shipper community understand what are the levers I can pull to start hitting my targets. So I think business will have a more immediate impact. Can't ignore the fact that legislation might come on the back end, though. People need to be prepared. Fortunately, you usually have more time to prepare for that.
Yeah, and Tyler, you mentioned earlier about fuel, right? Fuel being the biggest component, probably the one that we're ready to tackle today. What are you seeing from the shippers, and in ways to combat this. And I'm going to give you an example. I would think as a shipper, and I think we see a little bit more. I don't know if they're thinking carbon on this, but you know what? At the end of the day, if you're a shipper and you raise your mile per gallon, that I'm going to pay fuel surcharge on 8 miles per gallon. Those carriers that are running 6.5, they're gonna try to bake it in their rate, but they may not get that freight because we're after a consistent fuel surcharge table that says, you know what, I'm going to pay you at 8 miles a gallon, and those shippers that have the updated, Dave, the newer technology, the newer trucks, the fuel efficient trucks, we're going to hit 8.2 miles per gallon anyway. It's those that aren't participating that are going to hit a struggle. And I think from a shipper, Tyler, I say that's one way they can start to force it, right, from their eyes. Are you seeing any other examples of that?
That's a great example, and that's one that's really touchy among the carrier community too, right? We understand the cyclicality and the pushback, right, of just that contentious bid relationship that I think is going away. I think we're moving into a point where procurement's going to look really different in 5 years than it does today, and emissions will be a big part of that. Because now you start thinking, if shippers really want to move the needle with their carriers, are you going to have a better chance at getting your carriers to tell you the MPG on every truck? Or are you going to be able to start measuring emissions instead of fuel and rewarding carriers for cutting what you really want, which is lower emissions? You obviously want lower costs and you want them to be more efficient, but they're going to go hand in hand. And I think it's more palatable for the carriers to be rewarded for reducing emissions than to be worried someone's going to claw your surcharge back.
I'm just curious, as we talk about, shipping and trucking and stuff like that, is it really possible in trucking to get to get to a net zero? I mean, in a truck, because you're sitting there, you're burning a fossil fuel, and I know eventually we're going to go to electric vehicles and stuff like that, but as it is right now, how good is a trucking company at a carbon footprint?
Not as good as the world's going to ask them to be in 10 years.
Yeah.
But you're right. There is a way to do it today. It's just not a fun way. It's to turn off the truck and leave it alone. And nobody wants to do that. We've got to balance moving goods for our customers safely and on time, according to the way their customer wants. And that's what we've always done and what we always will do. We will not be a leader in this space as a freight. No one's going out and buying experimental fuels because you can't afford it and it's too risky. So it's going to come at scale and it's going to come slowly. We might only have a 10, 15% penetration rate from light and regional duty cycles of whatever it is, hydrogen, EV, alt fuel, biofuel around these regional hubs in 15 years. That might just be the road we're going towards.
And I'm going to go, there are ways today, it's an investment, right? And who's going to pay for the investment? That's the big question. But Drive Safe Dave, there are ways today that we in the trucking industry can have an immediate effect. One way would be to have APUs on every single truck. Dave, when we talk about APUs versus non-APU, what does that data say?
That data says that you're going to get a much higher miles per gallon.
But when you're idling, what happens? Idling on the APU versus idling without the APU.
Oh yeah, if you idle with an APU, you can get 10 hours on a gallon of fuel instead of 10 gallons.
Yeah. So every time you idle out there, Tyler, you're going to burn an hour of diesel. You're going to burn a gallon of diesel out there every time you idle, as opposed to an APU, you're going to burn a tenth of that. And so I think there are little ways. Again, that's a cost of what, $10,000, $12,000 for that APU.
Yep.
There's a cost associated to it. And I think, are we seeing the government come in to help these trucking companies say, you know what, we agree with you. We're going to give you some kind of rebate, some kind of incentive for having an APU on every one of those trucks running today.
You're seeing things like the STEER Act being introduced in Congress, which is an important piece of legislation that provides stipends for efficiency measures, technologies really on retrofits or aftermarket. Think aerodynamics, think things like APUs, although I don't know if APUs qualify for that act, but those are the sort of things that'll really move the needle. We all like to think it's a big grandiose change in the entire fuel system, but the reality is it's going to come incrementally in smaller bites, whether that's through driver behavior, technology that's being bolted onto the truck, routing optimization. There's lots of opportunities. What I'm really afraid of, Rick, and you and I have talked about this, is that as carriers make these changes, you have to be really good at reporting a baseline in order to get credit for what you're doing. And if you're not sharp today just start with SmartWay. SmartWay is the easiest place you can start. They lay the tools out. It's a good building block. We can improve on it. That's what we're working on at FreightWaves. But if you don't have a good baseline, you're not going to get the reward you want for all these activities you're taking.
You know, we see out there on the road today, we see the SmartWay technology with the skirting and the covers for the hubs and the undercarriage, the wings on the back of the truck. And we see all these, and they've become just a standard out there that we've come to understand and appreciate over time. And I look forward to what we're going to be doing as we go forward. But they're all, even skirts on trailers are an investment. Even skirts, I mean, we've got to, that's really what we're talking about. It's not just the APUs, but we're talking about these investment dollars to be smarter. Low resistant tires. I mean, there would seem to be way more important now than grip hugging tires or traction tires. We want low resistant tires. So as a truck driver, in my mindset, I'm thinking, that's not really what I want on the rubber when the rubber meets the road. Something that doesn't grip it very well. I mean, their kind of mindset is different, and we've got to think of them new. And it's kind of a old meets new, but really, my big question is, what do we see coming in the near future about these new SmartWay technology?
I think what you're going to expect is shippers are going to start first rewarding their core carriers who are taking some of these activities, and it might not be in the form of higher rates because the market's going to do what the market's going to do. It might be in the form of longer term contracts, preferential deals, opportunities for second looks at pieces of business. I think shippers will continue to do what they've always done, which is work with the guys they know and like in order to accomplish what their boss is telling them they got to get done. I hope we continue to see technologies scale and get cheaper and end up saving carriers money in the form of, increased fuel economy. And then carriers can continue to make investments in places they need to, specifically on like digitizing the trip and sharing data with customers and competitors. So,
hey, Tyler, you brought up a great point. I wanted to make sure we touch on that. When do you think that the independent contractors, the carriers, when will we be forced or to start tracking some of these emissions?
I mean, you see something similar today in that there are carriers or there are customers that say, look, we're only going to do business with SmartWay people. We know in reality when that loads on the dock and needs to go that sometimes that exception becomes part of their 1% exception.
You've
right?
been a broker before. You know how that works.
Can you make it?
For sure. So I think that will continue. Nobody's going to cut off their nose to spite their face until there's a hard cost associated with this emission. That might happen in Europe in the next 2 to 3 years. Road freight's going to be part of their cap and trade system in carbon by 2023 or 2024. So, let's just see how the market develops. In the meantime, carriers need to understand how to get their hands on the data and apply, fuel consumption with each load that goes through their system.
All right. Hey, Tyler, I want to thank you for being on BCB Live. Before we let you go, you've got to say this. Say your name and say BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
Anything for you, Sir Rick and Driver Dave. Tyler Cole from FreightWaves. Happy to be on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.
All right. Hey, Tyler, I want to thank you for that. For those of you that, you can catch Tyler on FreightWaves, let me tell you something. If there's somebody that knows about this emissions, about this carbon, it's Tyler. He's been involved in this, Dave. I remember talking to him. I'm telling you, I bet it was 8 years ago talking about this. And FreightWaves, it has made an investment into the carbon intelligence, that carbon tracking. It's something that you're going to have to really be aware, especially as a trucking company or as a shipper. Let's face it, it's coming.
Yeah, and you know what? We all need to really think and consider as we move forward in what we do, the environment, right? I mean, at some point, I'm not talking about tree hugging, but I am talking about being a little bit more considerate about the environment that we live in.
Yeah, we're going to go to a break. We'll be back in just a second. This is Driver Dave. This is Sir Rick. We'll be back to you in 60 seconds. as we come back to BCB Live. No respect, drive safe, Dave.
It is what
I'm
it
telling
is.
you, man, you get,
You do your job. You go out there and you sweat and you move the heavy loads. You do what needs to be done. Every driver in America truly understands what I'm talking about. You do what has to be done, and no respect. I feel like Rodney Dangerfield at some point.
You know what? I'm just glad that we didn't have the mic going after we went to break there. You know what? We had our own
Joe
little
Biden.
Biden going on right here with Drive Safe, Dave. A little upset about that part right there. Hey, Drive Safe, as we get ready for that phrase that pays, we always make time to talk about the shirt. Today, it's none other than Airport Drive Next Exit. Dave, the importance of your shirt today is what?
Look, the signs out there, when they're in green with white print, they're informative signs. We've all seen them. They tell you what exits are coming up. And sometimes you're driving out there and it may say Oklahoma City, 153 miles. And it may say Kansas City, even further. But they're basically information signs that you can use to do what needs to get done, and plus when you need to exit. So when you see this sign, don't wait till the last minute to exit. Move over into the exit lane, and therefore you'll know what's going on. Look, there's 1,000 signs out there that you're going to encounter each and every day. Look at them and try to understand exactly what they mean and what they're good for.
For sure. And I know he went specific again. If it's green with white, it's an informative sign. You know what? Those red signs that have white around them as well, not bad ones to obey either.
That's a command.
Those white signs out there that say speed limit, another good one to follow. And even the orange signs that say road construction ahead, just as important. These are signs, Dave, that we really do. And that's your point there, that when you see a sign, you've got to look at it and it should mean something. When you see the arrow that you wear sometimes too, talking about a sharp turn up ahead, it means you've got to slow down, especially if it says 20.
Yeah.
Right? Don't go 30, 40. It's not a test. It's not the thing to make that turn at 35 and call your buddy up. I just did it at 35. It said 20.
When you're driving down the road, and a lot of people don't even realize when you're driving down the road that there's a green sign that you see every mile. It's a mile marker. It's an informative sign on what mile marker you're at. Or an exit number. And that's what we're talking about here. We're just trying to talk about that informative sign, but every sign out there is very important on what you do and how you react on the road.
No doubt about it. Hey, Drive Safe, it is time for that phrase that pays. Phrase that pays. And if you're new to BCB Live, it's a saying that it's somebody sends it in. You can send it in yourself to info@bcblive.tv.
Yep.
Right? info@bcblive.tv. We want you to send in your suggestions, and that can pay you some money. It can for certain get you pretty famous because you can be on the screen like this one is right here. Dave, give us that. Driver Dave, give us that phrase that pays.
Always think twice before driving on ice.
One more time.
Always think twice before driving on ice.
All right, don't forget, connect with us on bcblive.tv. You can get us on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on the radio. Let me tell you, we're all over the place. We're as famous as you want to make us famous, right?
Yeah.
So share it with
TV.
your friends.
We've gone TV. We've moved away from just the .com. We're all in on TV now.
Pretty big deals right here. BCB Live, the
Driver
safest station in the nation. We'll be back with Buckle Up Bob with some weather and some traffic coming up next. You're watching BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. BCB Live covers freight. Here we are now at 21% of record freight being rejected. News down in Texas. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We had another $1.5 million seizure. If ever there's a time to do a pre or post trip, it's if you're doing something wrong. Weather, traffic.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to some traffic and weather with Buckle Up Bob. You can kind of see where the visibility can be compromised a little bit. Again, right where that rain is.
And most importantly, safety. One of the things that we must do is make sure that safety is the number one thing that we focus on.
Going into an intersection, yellow is not the way. That's to clear an intersection, not to enter an intersection.
Tune in weekdays from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. You can watch BCB Live through LinkedIn, YouTube, or Facebook. So what are you waiting for? Subscribe today and follow BCB Live.
Good morning, everybody. On this Tuesday is Buckle Up Bob. You are viewing BCB Live, the safest station in the nation. We're going to get started right away with some traffic. Rush hour time going on. The weather looks pretty good, so none of this should be weather related that I know of, other than down in the maybe west of Houston a little bit as we get some fog later. But DFW, again, just some normal. It looks like normal rush hour traffic. You got little sections here on 80. 30 looks pretty clear. 175 coming in a little bit. But all the major interstates look really clear this morning. Got a little bit of a slowdown here on the northbound side, if you will. A 635 as you come up. You can see a little bit here, Mesquite. Then as you cross 30 merge points all the way up to Richardson, you have a little bit of a problem. Slow down there, it's stop and go. So you're looking at about a 20 to 25 minute delay. Be patient if you're in that area. The Fort Worth side looks pretty good. Again, typical. You've got some rush hour construction traffic. It's always bottleneck up here near Keller as you approach the Alliance Airport, and that is in the northbound lane. The loops look great around Fort Worth. The normal right here at this 121 merge, exit and merge points here, always backs up. And then we've got a little bit of a problem down here from Burleson all the way up to 20 in the northbound lane. So again, you're going to have a little bit of a stop and go traffic situation there. The rest looks pretty good this morning as you are in the DFW area. So slow down and be patient. Houston's got a lot of stuff going on. We've got northbound lane 45 looks really backed up all the way down to South Houston. We've got the loop. We've got both directions over here on the western side that are going to cause you some delays. And then again, up here on the northern side, we've also got some problems. The southbound on 69 will be an issue. Southbound on 45 as you come into the loop will also have some problems, as well as the downtown area. The loops are still your best bet. You're just going to have some spots where you're going to be slowed down. You've got the westbound direction here on this southern part of the 610 loop as you come into Bel Air, and then there's also some slowdown over in the Bel Air area as well. As we move on to Kansas City, Kansas City looks good this morning. Again, not a whole lot of stuff, just little spots where you might see some 5-minute backups. Other than that, you've got a great commute this morning as you come into the Kansas City area. All the main thoroughfares look good. Chicago looks great this morning. You remember yesterday, everything was in yellow all the way out to the west. Looks much better this morning. The snow has moved out. It had to be weather related yesterday. As you can see, 80, 90 crossing over the state lines of Indiana and Illinois look good. Let's zoom in a little bit. There we go. 80 here as you come up into Joliet and Tinley Park look good. Bolingbrook 55 looks great. 88 out here in Aurora and Naperville also looks good, as does 90 coming into Elgin and Schaumburg. Looks real good all the way out to Rockford. And from Waukegan, from the Milwaukee border down, you also look great. So Chicago, great commute this morning. Again, they've been really great for the last several weeks. Yesterday had a little bit of snow issues. Today, much better travel this morning as you go through Chicago. Nashville looks typical, not too bad. Always have a problem here as you get down to Walnut Ridge, 24, all the way up here to Beverly Heights. You're going to have a backup, so you're looking at about 25, 30-minute trip there probably. Again, problems at the merge points here at 40 and 24. Just updated and still about the same. And then always 24 southbound here on 65 as the merge points. As you get closer to the inner city loop there at Nashville, you have a little bit of a backup there. 40 passing through looks good, and the loops all look good around Nashville this morning. So again, not too bad in Nashville. Just on 24 is going to be your main headache coming up from the south. As we look at Atlanta, we got some problems here on the eastbound lanes. Stonecrest as you come into the loop. Huge problems up in the northern part of the loop. That always seems to be the heaviest traffic. But as you can see, 85, both directions here outside the loop there, Norcross. you've got some problems, backups coming south. You've got major, probably 20, 25-minute backup. Just a little bit going north as you get outside the loop, so then it should clear up for you. You can see Sandy Springs. See if we can get some. There we go. Sandy Springs area north all the way, both directions. On the northeastern side, you've got both directions. And then over on the northwest side, it will be the eastbound lane on 285. You've got some backups there, as well as southbound on 75 as you come to the loop. Southern part looks good. And again, that's going to be your best bet on these interstates. Go south and around. Remember, it is a state law that you cannot pass through inside the loops unless you're going to deliver. So you have to stay away from these areas anyway. But it looks like the southern edge of your loop, portion of your loop, is going to be your best bet. Just saw out here by Douglasville, the eastbound direction, it looks like a pretty good backup as well. So as you just cross, get past Highway 5 point there on 20, you are going to start to see some slowdowns on the eastbound lane. So be prepared for that this morning. As we look at Baltimore, Baltimore looks great. A lot of the major cities look really good this morning. You can see just a little bit up here at Towson, and that's going to be on your eastbound direction, and a little bit here on the southwest on Arbutus, but everything else looks pretty good. 295 has a little bit of areas on both near Jessup, and then again down here by Greenbelt. But again, these are really small, normal commute traffic. Doesn't look too bad for you this morning there. And as you get into the D.C. area, it also looks good, right? Just a few spots on the loop, but still your best bet. And all the arteries coming in look pretty good. You just got some major or some minimal, minor, if you will, stop and go traffic in some certain situations. But hey, the D.C. area looks really good this morning, everybody. Philadelphia, New Jersey side looks great. And Philadelphia looks like typical morning commute traffic. You can see we're always usually back up to Conshohocken. And then there's a problem here on the southbound direction as you come along the river there into the downtown area. Other than that, it really looks just typically normal. The airport traffic looks great going around the airport. So again, it looks pretty good. It just looks like normal rush hour traffic for the Philadelphia area. Nothing that you haven't been used to. So just be patient, right? Remember, yield the right of way always. Keep your space and slow your speed down. Hey, we've got some weather, and so we kind of want to talk a little bit about it because it's just ever changing. Right now, not much going on, but we're going to start here real quick with the visibility. So we can kind of show what we got going on. So you can see down there by the Houston area, we've got some visibility issues. If I tap on anyone there, there's a 0.4. Looks like it's improved because it was 0 and 0.1 in some area. There's 0.1 just north of Houston. So again, some real patchy fog, some of it really thick as you come into the Houston area because as we showed on the radar, there's not much rain going on down there. So again, we've got fog in the Houston area as you go this morning. As you can see, the rain currently, just a little bit of some showers and maybe some snow showers out here in Denver, moving into Kansas. The Gulf Coast area is where you're going to find most of your showers this morning. We showed yesterday. The winds are going to be pretty good for most of the week, folks. We'll show today they'll kick up. A little bit breezy, but again, you're looking in the 20s, right, which is all stuff you can deal with. Again, just a little bit slower speed. Remember, yesterday on these curves, folks, watch and be slow down, right? I believe a lady lost her life in Arlington yesterday on a ramp. She was going too fast, ran off the ramp and rolled the vehicle. So again, we've got to pay attention to the signs, slow down. It's okay to be under those. And with the winds, you always got to be mindful of that. As we look for tomorrow, you can see winds start to come in the north. Again, we're in the mid-20s around noon for the wind gusts. And you can see it kind of stays that way and then even kind of lightens up just a little bit. So again, our winds are not going to be our issue. What we do have, and we want to watch a little bit, so love this. If you got windy.com out there, drivers, what you really want to do is go to the next 3, 5, and 10 days so you can kind of see the areas that are expecting snow. Now, they may not get it. Remember, this is forecast. So in the next 3 days, you can see a system is supposed to move in. Denver now looking at 4 inches. Yesterday it was 3. So they've updated it to add about another inch of snow. Again, nothing that can't be managed. And this little band is going to stretch into western Kansas as well. We're going to have some snow showers by Albuquerque with about a 1 to 2 inch. Same thing at Lubbock and the Panhandles. Could see about an inch. I know later in the week we might even see it in Dallas. So again, when we go to the 5 days, this is really where it kind of updates, and you can kind of see the Northeast gets hit along that East Coast. Possibly 16 inches along New Jersey and southern New York City, right? Possibly, again. And Virginia Beach might see 15.5 inches. So we want to watch that as the new snow, this thing comes in. So like I said, when we hit 3 days, it's not there. Now, when we go here, and you'll see it's going to happen about Friday, early Friday into Saturday. So we can kind of see here, you got some snow up there, but when we go to Thursday, here's noon, right? There's nothing there. A little bit up along the Great Lakes, Denver, and then watch what happens on Friday. This system starts to move down. This is 2 a.m., starts to move into Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia. And then when we get into rush hour traffic, you can see it really starts to balloon up in Pennsylvania, New York. And then as it goes through the day Friday, it moves down a little bit more. And then as we get into near Saturday, this is when it encompasses all that. And you can see this system out here pulling the moisture in with the cold air. So again, doesn't say much here on the Friday at 12 a.m. But boy, once we get to Saturday, you can see a lot of the system right there. And then what we said, right now they're predicting anywhere in that 8 to 10, 12 inches probably in the next 5 to 10 days. So we're going to watch that East Coast for this Friday and Saturday. It could be some major issues. Again, it's a forecast. It's always changing. Today, again, just a reminder, we want to watch. You can go to the, did I pass it? Yeah. The visibility. And again, that will tell you. Right now, there's some fog down there in South Texas. The pink is usually the bad visibility, so there's some visibility issues there, but it's over a mile, so not a problem there in New Orleans with some of the rain showers. But the big thing is going to be the fog in Texas this morning. Hey, we're going to take a quick break and be right back with some safety.
Welcome back to BCB Live, safest station in the nation. Buckle up, Bob. You know, these weather forecasts you've been given, I get their forecast, but I want to give you some credit because you've managed to keep this winter weather mainly on the weekend. We've seen some bad weather, but you've done all you can to keep it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it looks like, again, up in that Northeast, a little bit of the same.
Yeah, it looks like the system's coming down. That we should start seeing some issues up there on Wednesday afternoon. So looks like you might get through the rush hour traffic out there, but then expect it to get worse. We've been talking this week, and I believe we got some guests. I want to get everybody to get excited about being on. I think it's about Thursday as we get a special guest to talk about these accidents and reporting. Folks, we're doing do's and don'ts. Get the names of witnesses, right? And you kind of want to do this before the police get there. Try to get all that other witness and driver information that you can, because nowadays it seems like once the police get there, they separate the two and then they just give you a sheet with some name and some information for your insurance company. So You want to get pictures of that license plate, get pictures of their driver's license, things of that nature right away after you make sure they're not hurt. What you don't want to do is, hey, never ever settle anything in an accident. This goes for drivers out there. Get with your company. You don't settle anything without a lawyer, right? And that your company has that. If it's an individual out there, same thing. Don't settle anything without consulting a lawyer first. So that's the don't for this Tuesday. We're going to go into some videos. And again, there's some, want to remind everybody, we're going to see some, pay attention to the signs, right? Slow down. You have to slow down. A lady lost her life yesterday here in Texas, in Arlington, when she went around a ramp too fast and went over the ramp and rolled the vehicle and was killed. So again, four-wheelers, truck drivers, you've got to slow down and take these curves and these speed limit signs very serious. Our first video, great job here, just slowing down. I believe this ends up as we got to extend the video. I think this is a school bus that was pulled off the side, and traffic look how traffic in both lanes are just way back, letting this school bus come onto the highway. It's got their signal on. Don't know if they broke down or had a problem, but great job here, just being courteous and letting that vehicle back on the highway.
Like it's letting kids off.
Yeah, it's so dark, couldn't quite tell.
Yeah.
That's a dangerous place.
Yeah, they're all dangerous.
Yeah. This one here, just watch what happens to the four-wheeler. Yeah. I mean, there's no shoulder there. They got to be in the grass and the mud, and then jumps the 2 lanes in front of everybody to make a right-hand turn. Just crazy.
Yeah, especially when you spoke about that Jeep here in Arlington, Texas, that flipped over. But these roads, when they're like this, they become a little bit more oily, right?
Yes.
They become a little. You don't stick to them like you would. And listen, even with all of that, the four-wheeler goes around the vehicle, goes around the big truck, right? And it's never okay to do this. And even when it's sunny out, even when the roads are dry, it's not okay to do these things. And we've got to learn as a country to really just pack the patience a little bit more.
Yeah, this car had to leave the roadway in order to pass the vehicle.
To pass and then just move into the right lane. And it really didn't know. You talk about blind spots, Drive Safe, Dave. The car, as he's on the left side right now of this tractor trailer, he doesn't know. There's no chance he or she knows what's on the right side, what's coming up, on that next to that freaking trailer. And yet he goes all the way over to that lane, really not knowing what's there.
Yeah,
mine was made up.
And I'll tell you, as a driver, you're going to see crazy, you're going to see nutso, you're going to see bad behavior. You've got to keep a cool head about you. And
No,
do
this
the right
is the time you honk and you get your flashers going and you're yelling at them, right? Isn't that what happens during this time?
That's no.
It usually
that is
does.
not what you're
Pack
supposed
your patience even if you've had it happen to you, that's when you turn the cheek and just get slapped the other side.
Yeah, and Drive Safe drivers have shared with us that when you get in that soft, like he left the roadway, the other vehicle, so you can get it pulled or thrown into different directions, right, through ruts if it grabs you and you're no longer in control of that vehicle as much either. Is that correct?
Have you ever heard of that? Because we know you've never passed on a soft shoulder like
Yeah.
that. Have you ever heard of any of that happening?
I know our drivers have.
There's a lot going on here. I just, when you leave the roadway, you leave that, you got a couple of tires on there, a couple of tires off. They're going to react differently. And then when you come back in, you don't know if you're going to overcorrect. You don't know how the vehicle is going to react, especially in these wet conditions. Fortunately, he was able to maintain control, but he could have easily have spun out of control here and caused an accident right here. You've just got to be really careful.
This next one, again, what I wrote down was there was probably about 5 or 6 signs that, how busy and drivers, you have to make all these decisions, right? There's a lot going on this intersection, merge ramps, exit ramps. You got the speed limit there. You've got road width there. You've got a detour sign there. You've got another speed limit and some barrels up here. You've got some more, construction next 15 miles. I mean, there is just a lot. And then you also are thinking about the traffic and maybe everything else. There's just a lot going on in this video.
I'm thinking there just must not have been very many videos to choose from today if we went through a video with nothing on it. That's, you know what? What can I make out of this one is what had been going through Buckle Up Bob's mind. Is like, come on, I need more videos sent in, but that's a good one. No traffic.
I mean, if you look at it, what I think Bob's trying to stress is you've got signs on the roadway. You've got multiple signs on the side of the road. You've got signs overhead. You're being bombarded by a lot of information in a very small period of time.
And I don't know if you listened to this call or the conversation early this morning,
Yes,
Buckle Up Bob,
yeah.
but again, now for some reason I'm focused only on the green ones because those are the only important ones now. The green ones.
I said they're informative. They're informative signs.
But just a lot. We always talk bathe the signs. Well, man, you got to read about 7 signs in a short distance here to make sure, especially if you don't know where you're going, right? Slow down because
You even,
now
you even have signs on the road.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, they're even.
You could end up in the wrong lane, right? Somebody's coming out of nowhere, not reading the signs and messing up as well, realizing they're in the wrong lane. Great job here. Again, owning the space in front. Just kudos to this driver. I mean, I love this. This is just really good. He's not getting up. He or she's not getting up in any of this. Now, this vehicle comes out there, and there's a car, right? And I think I thought I saw some brake lights there. But again, just a great job. We talk all the time. Own the space in front of you. Stay in the right lane. A lot of patience here. Keeping that distance. But what a great job managing your speed and space in this video. And did you get the other one? Oh, nope.
The one on Reddit, I couldn't pull it.
Yeah, they had one where it was amazing. We talk all the time about 2-lane highways. Hopefully we can get it on for tomorrow. But a vehicle's coming this way, a truck's going down the lane, and then there's a merge point, and the truck doesn't yield. There's another flatbed that pulls out. This truck has nowhere to go and ends up, if he goes in the left lane, he kills that person probably head on. So he just hits the truck. It was just one of those things where we talk all the time. You have to slow down and be prepared to stop. Yeah, you expect that other truck driver to yield and stop because clearly you were coming, but it was just one that was easily preventable if you just always yield the right of way, even if it's yours. Never take it.
Yeah, and it's a couple things I want to just kind of reemphasize on this. Number one, you talked about making deals. If you've been into an accident, without a doubt, you don't make the deals. Don't say, hey, you good? We're going to settle for this. Yes. No deals on the side. You don't go to people's court. You let the attorneys do let them handle that business, right? Drive safe. No deals on the side.
Yeah, Bob said find your witnesses early. Does that include? So that does not mean carry cash and find your witnesses early.
Yeah.
That is not the same thing. But hey, you did see my way, right? But they'll be here in a minute, and we'll get separated. We want to make sure we're on the same page.
And one of the things in the don'ts that I loved, it says, when these other lawyers or insurance companies, right, anything they ask you to do, trust me, when the rules are, they will never benefit you, ever, 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 right? They got lawyers working to protect them. You should too. So
and they're going to call.
And they're
going to call.
They're going to try their best.
So your answer is, hey, I am obligated to talk to my insurance company, my representative. You'll need to contact them if anything needs to be said. I am not available for comment.
Yes, sir. We talk a little bit again. We talked about opening up that Bob did with the accident, the fatality yesterday.
Yes.
It's also it was a Jeep that was going through there, did not have their seatbelt on. So
That's
not
true.
have their seatbelt on, folks out there. And we see it, Dave, when we talk about the road checks, right? The seatbelt still makes that top list of violations. Folks, you've got to wear those seatbelts. Maybe it's uncomfortable out there, but it's there to protect you when something bad does happen. Make sure that you have that on and that you're utilizing that seatbelt. Dave, you've talked about sometimes losing control of the vehicle, when you go off the side, and if that seatbelt's not there to keep you in your seat, maybe you fly out of the seat,
Yeah,
and now you
you're
can't.
You're in the
drive.
bunk area.
There you go.
You're in the bunk
It's
area.
hard to drive.
It's hard
that
to
truck.
drive and stop the vehicle if you're in the bunk area because you hit a big hole or actually collided with another vehicle, because it does happen. a collision takes place and it throws you from your chair. If you're not buckled in, locked in, you can't continue to control the vehicle.
Well, and all the safety devices in these vehicles are designed to protect you in the location you're in. And that seatbelt helps keep you in there around all that protection devices, from the metal on the sides of the car to airbags. And when you out of the seatbelt, you're not nowhere near that protective devices anymore that can save your life.
Make sure that we're doing all we can to stay safe out there on the road. That includes, doing that pre-trip, doing your post-trip, wearing your seatbelt, making sure that you're packed plenty of patience every day, and that you're looking out ahead, expecting the craziness to happen. Don't let it catch you off guard, because I got news for you. It's going to happen, and it probably happened right now. And right now, it's happening all around you. Expect it. Slow down when you get into them big cities. Look for some of these clues that we speak about. Dave, when we talk about multiple lanes, when you're all of a sudden you're on a 5-lane highway, there's probably a lot of traffic, right?
Or can be in an instant. It's their 5 lanes for a reason. They don't just go out and lay 5 lanes because, hey, it's a wide open space. Let's just lay more millions of dollars of concrete just because we've got an extra bucket back here. That's not how it works. They do it by intentionality and by purpose. So when you are in these multiple lanes, realize, hey, make sure, pick your lane, stick to your lane, do what you have to do, and be wise in these locations, because it does matter. We sit here and we talk about these little things, and we talk about all these different instances and crazy people driving. We talk about these because they do matter how you react. And we're going to continue to talk about them. We're going to continue to be that noise. We're going to continue to be that sound that tells you, be careful, because they're against you out there. They're all against you. Just be cautious out there on the road.
Let's close it out with a prayer, John.
Dear Heavenly Father, we gather before you today to ask for your grace in all things. Father, give us the strength to go out and do what needs to be done, your will upon the world as you see it. Father, give us the courage to also be right for one another. Help us to create a better world for each person out there, not only for ourselves, but for everyone that we encounter. Father, give us the ability to make today the best day we've ever had. Give us that ability today. Father, we ask all of these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. We'll see you this afternoon. Stay tuned for your local news, only on BCB Live, the safest station in the nation.